was the summer I had had my third baby, and things were really slow, and I was pulled in a million different directions. I didn't have my team built out the way that I do now. And I do remember kind of floundering a little bit that summer and visiting with a couple people about it. And there was someone that had given me advice. They were like, well, would it feel good to take a part-time job at a hospital? And honestly, that was the best question anyone could have ever asked me because my answer was like, hell no. I'm definitely not going back to that. So I got to figure this out. I'm going to
Mhm.
figure this out. And so I remember like a month after that, I finally threw my first VA. I hit like a 20K month and I was like, okay, we're going to be okay. I just
Yeah.
need to like keep going and figure some stuff out.
What would you do if you were making more in your side hustle than your full time job, but you still couldn't let go of the security of a regular paycheck? Now, imagine doing all of that while pregnant with your third child. That's exactly where today's guest on the Nourish CEO podcast found herself. Lindsey Lusson is a registered dietitian with a powerful mix of personal and professional experience in disordered eating and fertility. And Lindsay had been quietly building a coaching business, helping women recover their cycles and restore their fertility after having gone through hypothalamic amenorrhea herself. Today, Lindsay has helped hundreds of women take charge of their health and fertility naturally. She runs a high ticket group program. She's the breadwinner of her family of five, and she brings in 40K months, all while working about 30 hours a week and being done in time for school pickup. So, if you've ever questioned whether it's really possible to scale a health business without burning out, or whether people are still investing in high ticket health offers in 2025, this conversation will change what you think is possible. Let's dive in. All right, everyone. Well, I am so excited to have with us on the show today Lindsay Lusson. Welcome to the Nourish CEO podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah. So we were just chatting a little bit before I hit record, and Lindsay is a client of mine for, gosh, I think like a little over a year ish,
Yeah.
year and a
Yeah.
quarter or something now. And so it's been so cool for me to get to watch everything that you've accomplished since the beginning of last year. But I know your business didn't just start last year. So to get us started, I would love to just get kind of the nutshell version of how you got into business and what it looked like for you when you started, and then we can kind of work our way up to now what does it look like in 2025 for your business?
Yeah, you bet. I love telling the story because, like, I'm sure that there are people listening, like I was like 5 or 6 years ago, being like, "Oh, it's so cool to see what dietitians are doing online. Like, good for them. I'll never be able to do that," or "I should have started sooner," or something like that. That's where I was in 2020. And granted, I do feel like I got on social media at the right time. Like, that did work in my favor. But I think part of the one of the hardest things is, like, just getting started. And so in 2020, my husband and I had sold our house in Dallas and moved to a smaller city in Texas called Waco to be closer to my family. We were thinking about having another kid. I was stuck working in corporate wellness. I had been working the same kind of dead end job. I knew about 2 or 3 years in that there was really no future in. I had like applied for positions, got passed up. I was working remotely for a company in Minneapolis. I was just not front and center. I was never going to get into like leadership positions. And in some ways, thank God, because it led me to like seek out other opportunities. So we sold our house. We had a little bit of extra money, and I decided I was going to try to run my own business. I hired a coach, and I was not totally sure what I wanted to do or who I wanted to work with, but somehow kind of started sharing a little bit more about my personal story with period loss and was really floored at the number of DMs I would get. Just people being like, "Oh my gosh, this is me too. No one talks about this." And so I kind of, from the beginning of when I started my business, I kind of very quickly realized that this was going to be my niche. This was going to be the people that I was going to work with. And this was a gap in healthcare because there, just like myself, there were all of these women that were really active, really healthy, not getting their period, and really not given any other options other than to go on the pill or to start doing fertility treatment. And so I had kind of already identified that gap. I knew I was a registered dietitian. I knew I could help people. And so I started taking on clients like almost immediately. I started as a side hustle. So I was working in corporate wellness, doing just kind of general health coaching as a registered dietitian. Started my side hustle in 2020, moved from one-on-one to a group program kind of halfway through 2020, and it kind of grew from there. I had a lot of imposter syndrome and was, even though I was like running my business, making more money in my private practice than I was in my corporate job. The corporate job felt safe and steady with the benefit, the steady paycheck. And it wasn't until I got pregnant with my third child that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't keep doing both. So in April, fast forward to April 2022, I quit my corporate job, even though I would have had paid maternity leave, even though it was like safe and we were going to have another kid and life was getting more expensive. I just felt like that was kind of my like moment to be like, I need to go all in on my business if I really want this to be a full time thing. So I did. And now the rest is history. So I guess this is my 6th year of business and I love my job. Like I literally like I just got back from a girls trip and everyone was like, "Oh, Monday, like I don't want to go back to work." And I was like, "I can't wait to go back to work. Like I cannot wait. Like working on new projects, onboarding clients, like literally like it's the best thing ever."
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like I don't think I knew, maybe I did know this. I don't know if I knew that you had the corporate job beforehand because I feel like
Yeah.
even you saying that you had imposter syndrome about starting a business, I'm like, "Really? You?" Because I just feel like you're the kind of person who just seems so, I don't know what the word is. It's almost just like there's no plan B is the thing that
Mhm.
comes to mind. You're like, "I'm doing this. I don't care what I have to do. I'm just, whatever you tell me and whatever needs to happen to get to whatever level you want to get to is like it's happening." So the fact that you would think that it wasn't possible for you is actually a little surprising to me. So what do you think changed that? Was it literally just the I can't, like, was it I can't do it the other way, so I'm gonna have to like take this leap? Or like, well, was it just a really slow transition over time where you start to think, okay, I actually can do this? What was that like for you?
I mean, I think it was a slow transition because like if I were smarter, honestly, I could and should have quit sooner and probably would have even seen growth sooner. But I am just like a play it safe girly. So
That
it
like that
almost
I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe you think you are, but
I think there's been a lot of growth over the past
yeah.
year and a half in working with you, but yes, it was gradual. It felt safe to have it as a side hustle, but I don't know, it was kind of like I was having these conversations with other female entrepreneurs and with my husband about like, "Oh, I just don't know if I could like do this full time. I don't know if I could do this full time." And I honestly think that like our third pregnancy was a surprise. Blessed. It's the best ever. She's the sweetest little girl. But I almost feel like that was such a turning point because I realized like I need to go all in on my business because I can't keep doing two things. Like I'm spread
Mhm.
too thin doing two things. I'm about to have another child. I also saw it as a window of opportunity. I was like, well, I could just stick it out and get the paid maternity leave, or I've got 8 months where I could really go all in on my business and get it to a place where I feel confident that this is going to be what I'm going to do indefinitely. So that was a big shift for me. And then I'll also say too, just like, I don't know, I think the further you get into running a business, while there are definitely ups and downs, and there are still days where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, does this mean like I'm never going to work with anyone again? Like, I'll snap out of it. But I think the further you get into business too, just the more confident you become in being like, okay, what I do is valuable. Like, I think it's a mindset shift too of being like, the money is always going to be able to come in. The clients are
Mhm.
always going to be able to come to me. Like, yes, there's going to be ups and downs, but just understanding, like, okay, I've done this for X number of years. I know how to help people. What I do solves a valuable problem. This problem isn't going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that confidence that you can make money is huge because when you first get started, it's kind of like, can I make money? Am I even
Hmm.
able to do this? And then you'll kind of have that experience of you'll start to make money and then it's still like, okay, but is this really happening? And then once you
Hmm.
get to a place where you're at now, where not to say that like every month is, oh my gosh, exponential growth and, straight line trajectory or something. But I feel like just that understanding that like you can figure it out and you can get sales is something that once you get to that place, I feel like you're basically unemployable because you're like, man, if I can just make money when I want, how I want, why would I ever take a job? Right. And so I think that's something where it's not an instant, you don't just like come into online business and be like, I know how to make money. It does take time. But once you get there, I think it's one of those skills that even if for some reason, which I don't think your niche is sadly going anywhere, because I know, we'd all be very happy if people no longer dealt with like disordered eating or amenorrhea, that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
it's unlikely that that niche is going anywhere. And there will always be people who do need help. So it's one of those things where when you're at that level, I just think it's like why would I do anything different? Even on those days where, stuff happens, because it can be hard.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I do remember like summer of 20, I think it was the summer I had my third baby, and things were really slow and I was just like pulled in a million different directions. I didn't have my team built out the way that I do now. And I do remember kind of floundering a little bit that summer and visiting with a couple people about it. And there was someone that had given me advice. They were like, well, would it feel good to like take a part-time job at a hospital? And honestly, that was like the best question anyone could have ever asked me because my answer was like, hell no.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely not going back to that. So I got to figure this out. I'm going to
Mhm.
figure this out. And so I remember like a month after that, I finally started my first VA. I hit like a 20K month and I was like, okay, we're going to be okay. I just
Yeah.
need to like keep going and figure some stuff out.
Yeah. And you said that was 2023? That summer?
2020, yeah, 2023. Yes, because
Okay.
it was after I had my daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. So walk me through that transition, because I remember when we first started working together, you told me that I think it was a belief you had, which makes sense, that summers were just like really slow. And it sounds like that maybe was the experience that you had had that year, where it was like, oh, summers are just a slow season for me. And I remember thinking, well, does it have to be slow? So I'm just wondering, because I think business can have seasonality. Our lives have seasonality. It's not like you're going to be go, go, go all the time. There's probably things that happen in your life, like having a baby or maybe
Mhm.
just wanting to slow down a little bit. I know a lot of moms that will kind of slow down over the summer because they want to have a slow summer. So it's not to say that slowing down over the summer is necessarily a bad thing. But if you're just assuming it's going to slow down versus intentionally choosing a slower summer, that's where the issue comes in. So, what would you say was the big change for you going from that summer where you're like, maybe this isn't as, predictable or consistent as I need it to be, or maybe, summer is always going to be slow. What was the change for you that sounds like that was that question of, do you want a part-time job at a
Mhm.
hospital, that kind of triggered the, oh, heck no. But once you made that decision, like what was the action steps that followed from that decision?
So I think like really two things. I think one of it was definitely mindset. I remember when we were working together, I think last summer, and I was like telling you that I was like, well, I got to do all I can now and, kind of early Q2 because summer is going to be so slow. And you're like, why does summer have to be slow? I was like, well, because it was last year. And you were like, I really want you to start thinking about like every month as like a new opportunity. Like you can't be like, oh, April was slow. So May's going to be so busy or vice versa. Like it's not in online business with things changing so frequently, it's not like you can use a ton of past data for forecasting. I mean, you can to a certain extent, but especially when you think about it in a negative way of like, this is the sales are going to be sparse. I'm not going to make enough money. It's just kind of just that scarcity mindset. I think shifting out of that was really helpful. The other thing too, this may not be like everyone's favorite answer, but I fought my husband on like having consistent childcare for a while, and I do feel like that was a huge bottleneck. We were paying a couple college girls to nanny for us for a while, which was 100% the best decision in the beginning because it was beneficial for breastfeeding. I liked having her home. I felt like that was one of the benefits of being a business owner was that, I didn't have to do childcare. And then for me, eventually, especially as she got older and kind of closer to like 9 months to a year, my husband was like, look, like I need to show you the math on this. Like, this is so cheap. Like, you don't even have to send her every single day, but like, just do this. That way, you're not putting pressure on yourself to be like, oh, I have to cram all this work in, during 2.5 hours. And what if she wakes up early and all of this? And so, I mean, that's not like the easiest thing to do, especially when your baby is really young. But for me, it just started making more and more sense the older she got. And then as we had a more consistent routine and consistent care where I could be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and dedicate, the next 4 hours to this, or this is going to be the day where I do my content creation, or I'm finally going to start working on that project. For me, like organizationally, that was really helpful. And I think I saw a trickle down effect with that in
Yeah.
sales and growth.
Yeah. It's funny when you said you fought your husband, I thought you were going to say that you had to convince him that you could get childcare as opposed to him being like, you need more childcare. Is that actually what it was?
He thought that we should just send her to daycare like the whole time. And I was like, no, like it's my last baby. I want her home with me. And I did it. And I don't regret that time.
Hmm.
But it was it was a bottleneck for me. And I don't think I would do anything differently in hindsight, but just like putting that out there, like if somebody is like a first time mom or they have like a baby, especially like younger than 6 months at home, like
Hmm.
maybe it's going to be a season of growth for you and that's okay. But know that like know what's possible on the other side of it
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. Or I mean, for us, I had to really get I had like a come to Jesus moment about my schedule because my husband and I, when we first had Mabel, like we had I think 6 to 8 weeks where I wasn't really working almost at all. But once I started working again, I was like, okay, like we'll bring them to like Vera goes to daycare and then like we'll share the office and we can like pass the baby back and forth. And the first couple weeks we did that, I was like, oh my God, this is so draining on my mental energy. By the time I even sit down to work, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. So we decided I think it was like last month that we were going to switch to a half and half day essentially. So my husband gets the first half of the day to work. So he takes Vera to the daycare. And our daycare is such that we can't leave her. It's like you have to be in the building when she's there.
Mhm.
So he does the morning stuff and then I take the afternoon. Like we're recording in the afternoon right now. My baby is with my husband and my older daughter is sleeping. So it is something where we tried to make that work, but just the scramble of like getting everybody to the office, even me getting dressed and stuff in the morning and getting the baby out, it was like it my brain was like not functional by the time we got to the office. And I was seeing that impacting sales activities. Like I just couldn't even be creating the things that I needed to create to grow the business. So making that shift, it was like, oh, I feel kind of weird, like not having any official work time in the morning, but it's been
Mhm.
so helpful. And I have even found that for us, I'm able to get so much more done because I'm not putting all this pressure on myself to work during these hours that are so scrambly. So that the time I am working, even though it's like half of what I used to be able to work, probably less honestly right now, the output is so much better. And then the results in the business are so much better because of that. So I think the childcare thing, I think you can decide how you wanna do it. Like, for us, I have the baby all morning, so I'm not doing anything that's, like, requiring, like, baby free time, but when she's older, that'll definitely change because they get a lot more challenging. You can't just, like, put them down on the
They're very
floor and just
busy.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, like,
Yes.
I can put her down on the floor and, like, make a reel really quick, but when she's, like, 6, 7 months, I feel like that might be we'll have to change it again.
And that's where we were getting when she turned 9 months. Like I was like, oh, because it used to be, yeah, it used to be like, oh, you could like put him in a bouncer or something and, respond to some emails or,
Mhm.
do like client reviews and stuff like that. But yeah, whenever they get to the point where they're mobile, it's all like you have to have your eyes on them the whole time. So
I
you
know.
can't do two things at once.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. So ask me again in like a few months how we're doing. But I think right now with the way it is, like, and to be fair, Mabel can start using the daycare that Vera uses at 6 months. So I have the same kind of feeling as you, where I'm like, oh, I don't know about putting her in at 6 months. But if it's only
Yeah.
for a couple days a week for a few hours, I'm like, honestly, sometimes she sleeps that long. So I'm not even sure it's really that big of a deal. So yeah. So it's tough though, because I mean, just that age is like you just can't take your eyes off them, and so if you are working and the child is around, it's just like even the quality of work, even if you're trying to do something, is so much worse than if you just have even less time that's dedicated for that activity.
Right. Like even like having like letting a parent or a caregiver watch them for a nap and like an hour after or something like that. We would do that with my mom sometimes too, just to like give a little bit of extra time. So yeah, that concentrated time makes sense, right? Like when you think about like energetics of like task switching and like what an
Mhm.
energy suck that can be, I think it could be similar to with like trying to, be a mom and work and do it all at the same time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I know women's brains are set up when they have children to kinda always have a little bit of you know, a attention going to them. So if they're in the room or if they're somebody that you have to actually pay attention to, it really would make it very difficult for you to do anything focused. So I do think that's important for women, especially like you were saying, if a woman's got a young kid and they don't have childcare and they're like comparing themselves to maybe one of us that
Yeah.
either has childcare at least part time or doesn't have kids that need that level of attention anymore, which I guess yours would be probably what, like 4 now? 4 years,
Yeah.
3?
So mine are 6, 4, and 2.
Oh, 2. I don't know why I thought the youngest one was a little older than that, but I guess the
No,
timeline makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, 6, 4, and 2. And yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to bring that into the conversation is because I do know a lot of like people who run virtual private practices, moms, and they'll kind of do it as like, this is so great because I can just like work with my kids. So I'm like, you like, I don't care how old your kids are. Like, you will probably never work with your kids at home. Like, it's going to be like that scattered, spotty. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, my oldest is 6. So maybe they hit an age where they're a little bit more independent, but I'm sure that depends on the kid because my oldest like loves to like be in the background in my Zoom calls if she's home. So it just
Yeah.
doesn't work for us.
Yeah, so what does it look like now, because you run your group program still, and we were mentioning before we hit record that you essentially are not taking one-on-one clients at this point. You have team members that do one-on-one, and then you have your group program. So what does a typical work day, work week look like, also balancing that with your mom duties? And when I say
Yeah.
duties, I mean half the time I feel like mom stuff is like you just want to be around your kids. You don't just want to like put them, in daycare for the entire day and never see them. So, what does your week look like right now with that age range of kids?
So we're kind of shifting some things because it's about to be summer. But during the school year, our days start really early because my daughter, she's in kinder or about to graduate kinder, would have to be at school by 7:40. So that was a shift, and it was a good shift because I was like, oh my gosh, like I can jump into work at 8 o'clock. Like, so I'm usually not on calls before 9:30 because I like to just either have my time to work out or like clean up around the house or get ready for the day. They'll usually not start any calls before like 9 or 9:30. I'm almost where I'm not taking any one-on-one clients, but with our group program, we do have like a hybrid one-on-one portion of it. I was taking majority of those clients, and then we kind of shifted in 2024 where I had another dietitian taking some, and then it's shifted to half to her taking pretty much all of them now.
Mhm.
And then we just hired another dietitian who can kind of help support that too for a different kind of type of client too. So I am kind of looking forward to being off of one-on-one clients. It's a little bit sad because I like the coaching, but I feel like I also get that in running group calls. And, the thing about being the boss of your own business is if you ever wanted to take a one-on-one client on, you totally could.
Mhm.
My husband and I both work from home, although sometimes he travels. So if he's traveling, I like to pick the kids up kind of around like 4. That seems to be a good time for us to be able to like get some like wind down time, prepare dinner, have playtime. We have longer days now, so we'll do stuff outside. And then Fridays are usually a day that I kind of like to make like a work optional day. Depending upon what season I'm in and what we're working on, might need to be a half day. It might just be like I'll take a call or two. But in the summer, my plan is to have like Fridays off to be with my 6-year-old. So that's something I'm looking forward to. And especially as we kind of build out our team, it's exciting to think about like, okay, like maybe I really not going to have to be working, 30 hours a week, but I'd say 30 is probably my average on hours per week that I work.
Mhm. And as far as the work itself, what are you usually spending that 30 hours on, given that you're not doing the one-on-one sessions anymore?
A lot of it is like marketing, which is so funny because like I didn't go to school for that, but it's been kind of a fun shift. And I was like talking to another person on my team last week about it. She was like, I like hate like the sales and the marketing. And I was like, I actually kind of love it. I don't know that I'm like that good at it, but I like learning a new skill set. And it's been interesting to kind of switch from like that practitioner, like primary practitioner role to more of like sales marketing. But it's been good because it's like cool to be like, oh, like I can still learn new things and do new things. Like you know, always new things to explore.
Yeah. Was that something that you always felt like that about? Or was there a period of time where sales and marketing was like icky or scary or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I even still sometimes get like nervous for sales calls, but it's helpful to know the person that you're going to be in front of. And I think kind of once you get, 5 or 7 minutes into a sales call, you're like, okay, I understand this type of person. I understand what's probably going on with them. And then the confidence can come through because you can help them. I think back to like the early days of sales calls. I just 100% did not know what I was doing. I would always like tend to oversell my program and talk about like all the bells and whistles and let me explain, let me tell you why this is valuable, and missing just the whole point of like that's not really why they're coming to you. They really want to know if they can trust you. Can you solve their problem and can you get them to the other side of what they're experiencing?
Mhm.
So that's been a transition for me. And then I would say the other thing is to like I can be chatty. So my husband, every time I like wrap a sales call, he'll be like, you were talking too much, or you need to let them talk more, which is hard. But I think that there's value in that too, because like the more that someone opens up and is talking about themselves, the more that they're automatically going to start trusting you versus you talking at them on a call.
Yeah, I feel like I have a similar challenge. And it's not because, like, I feel like sometimes you think, oh, I'm just talking too much because I'm nervous. But I think sometimes I talk too much because I'm like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. Like I get
Yeah.
excited about stuff. And I bet you're similar sometimes where it's like, oh, I know how I could help you. And it's more about you just want them to understand and to move forward. But then it is something where it's like, oh, if I talking too much actually probably scares them or to get too into all the things you could do. Like I've literally had sales that didn't close and I asked them like, "Hey, could you let me know like what was it about our conversation that made you feel like this wouldn't be a good fit?" And they would pinpoint like one thing that I had mentioned just like as an offhand, "Oh, and if you wanted to look at any Facebook ads, we could talk about that." And then they were like, "I don't want to run ads." And I'm like, that's like not anything that we have to do. Like I don't know why that
Yeah.
was the one thing you latched onto, but it was. And so that is something where learning how to just keep things simple and keep things
Yeah.
basic. It I feel like it's not a dietetic skill set. I feel like dietitians
No.
are chatty. We have all the things we want to share. I remember when I first started my business, I would give people these like 5-page handouts with all the different things that they were going to be working on. It's so dumb. Like, I can't believe I did that, but it's just so funny because I feel like we just want to help people. So we're just like giving, giving, giving because we want to give so much value. And then that ends up being like actually the thing that hurts the business as well as actually doesn't do what the client needs it to do. So,
Yeah, exactly. And I'll say that's been a shift for me too, to feel like I could launch a program with it not already being done or like learning to like build stuff out as you go. I've definitely also learned the hard way of like, oh, I'm going to like create all this content for these modules and then like nobody watches them. And it's like, that was a huge waste. Like
yeah.
took a whole week to create. Like it's better to sometimes listen to what they need and fill in the gaps as you go.
Yeah. So talk to me about the group program thing because it sounds like you started yours pretty early in your business journey. What inspired you to create a group program versus just doing the one-on-one sessions?
A couple of things. I think at my peak, when I was only doing one on one, and granted, I was working part time. So I was working full time in corporate wellness, so 40 hours a week in corporate wellness and seeing clients on the side. And I think that I had built up to about 8 or 9 clients. And these were clients I was seeing after we put my daughter to bed. These were clients I was seeing on Saturdays and Sundays. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't keep operating this way. And so I decided to launch a group program. And originally it was just like minimum viable product. It was like a couple $100. It was a 6-week program, 6 weeks to get your period back. I don't even think I had a continuity offer at that point, but it was super low cost. We had like 4 or 5 people in the first group. And then I tried to turn the 6 week into a 3 month. And this is what I was talking about with like building out all the modules and like, I know what these people need. And I had such a hard time selling that. I think I tried to sell that for like a month or two and then didn't necessarily decide to scrap it, that I was pulled back to do like the shorter program. So we ran a 6 week program for like probably a year and a half. And then it started, and we had a really great re-sign rate because obviously most people aren't going to get results in 6 weeks, but it was enough to build momentum to where people were like, this is awesome. I need to keep going.
Hmm.
But eventually we expanded it to an 8 week program. And then we kind of had like a phase one, get your period back, phase two, how to, regulate your cycle after it returns or whatever. And then it wasn't until I was working with you last year that you were like, this is the same, like make it the same program. And so now we run a 12-week program. And because everybody has a different experience, people get their period back in like a month. And so people take, 3 months. People are able to, it's a little bit more individualized in the sense that like people can progress through the program the way that their bodies are going to respond. And once they hit those milestones, we can adjust the content and the coaching for the individual.
Yeah. Tell me about, so you said you tried to make it a 3-month program and it didn't sell. And now you do have a 3-month program and it does sell. So what do you feel like is the big difference between the original 3-month program and the one you sell now?
Hard to say. I mean, I guess I could have given it a little bit more time. I wonder too if some of it though with my mindset, because I don't even remember what my prices were back then, but I was selling kind of the 6-week program for X. And then the 3 month program would have been 2 or 3 times that amount. So I wonder if some of it was my mindset around like, oh my gosh, are people really going to buy this program? This is so much more money. What if I can't deliver results? But I do wonder if I was maybe a little bit in my head with like trying to sell it.
Mhm. Were you presenting both of those offers at the same time?
Can't remember exactly how I was positioning them, but I no, I think
Okay.
that I was only trying to sell. For the most part, I've always kind of just focused on one main offer. Haven't typically gotten like down the rabbit hole of having like 5 different offers and
Mhm.
this for this and this. So I have typically always kind of stuck to like one major product or service.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if it was like, well, you could do 6 weeks or you could do 3 months, and people are like, "Well, let me start with the 6 weeks. Why would I start with 3 months?" So
Right.
and I'm imagining that your prices have changed since then.
Definitely. Yeah. I think I want to say my first like 6 week program was probably like $300 or $400 maybe. And now we sell our group program, just the group program for 2,700. And if they do the hybrid with one-on-ones, it's 3,700.
Mhm. How was that, making that change to that? Because I mean, I would call that high ticket for a health business,
Yes.
especially for a
Yeah.
group program. I mean, there's people that won't even sell a one-on-one program for $3,000.
Yeah. You know, I had a lot of like mental stuff around that too, because I was like, this isn't accessible to everyone. Like, I can't help all the people. And I kind of just had to realize that, like, well, I'm not going to be able to help every single person in the world. And I do have competitors. And if people want the cheapest program possible, they can go and work with someone else. Like, that's okay. Like, other
Mhm.
people can help other people too. Like, that's okay. And I kind of just had to remember that, like, what we're doing is different and what we're doing is really high touch. We get our clients amazing results. We have rave reviews. We are always learning and changing and improving our program. We take client feedback very seriously. And so when you think about pricing, a certain way, it's like people are actually okay with paying for a premium product if they're getting a premium experience. You think
Mhm.
about like, I know you had this in one of your modules, but about like people expected the expensive wine to taste better, even though, they didn't know, like on a blind taste test. Or like, it's interesting too, like when I think about healthcare, like people are not, and I work in the fertility niche. So like our ideal client, like probably like 80% of the clients we work with are like actively trying to get pregnant. So in some ways, like $2,700 is an investment, but it's also a drop in the bucket compared to what somebody might be paying for an IVF cycle,
Mhm.
with arguably better statistics and better long-term outcomes investing in our
Mhm.
program. So I think it's a lot of like mindset, positioning of being like, okay, you can't help everyone. And you need to understand that what you do is valuable. And for the right person, this is going to be the right price. And that's okay if it's not for everyone.
Mhm. Well, and I also feel like with the amenorrhea niche, because as I believe you know, I used to do one of my main programs was called "Get Your Period Back." It's I still have the URL for that. So it is something where that particular niche, I find it's much less about just getting the right information and much more about committing to the process. And I think
Mhm.
with that particular problem, high ticket can actually benefit them because if they're just spending a couple $100s on a program, what are the odds that they're going to follow through and actually radically change their behavior, change how they eat, change how they exercise, change how they think about their body, change like there's a lot of stuff that can go into amenorrhea recovery, including like mindset shifts and,
Mhm.
just how they live their life altogether. It's not just, oh, eat this many calories and stop working out, which I know is a philosophy that exists. But I feel like for the women that you work with, and these were the women that I used to work with, is that woman who wants to do it in a way that doesn't make her life so radically different where it's like, "Oh, yeah, just eat cheesecake and lay on the couch all day." Like, most women
Mhm.
probably don't wanna do that. They still wanna be active. They still wanna eat a quote, unquote, "healthy diet," but they don't want it to be the reason that they're not getting their period. So I feel like that change has to be something that is, that there's some skin in the game as far as the investment and the commitment that they've made, and obviously, there's some women who don't need that, but I think from my experience, the vast majority of them, it's not like the information was something that they had no idea, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know I needed to eat more," right? Like, they probably
Yeah.
kinda knew, but the actual behavior change happened because they made that investment and it was like, okay, now there's no going back. I have to do it because I signed up for this program and now I got to make it work for me.
Yeah, definitely that. And another thing that we have noticed over the years with people who took more of the just eat cheesecake and sit on the couch approach, nobody really ever learns anything from that. All they learn is how to overexercise and underfuel their body and lose their period, or how to not move at all, eat a ton of calories and not feel awesome. And they don't learn like the balance between the two extremes. And so I think like a more robust, higher ticket, higher program allows somebody to really be able to find that unique balance for them without like swinging between extremes. Because we work with people that they're on like their third round of trying to get their period back because they always just, just white knuckle my way through. And so I do think that, a lot of times people aren't necessarily paying for the information, although we do usually get good feedback that people are like, I've learned so much about my cycle and my body and my hormones. But yeah, the whole process of how to get your period back is not necessarily rocket science.
And then if they don't have any support, especially no high touch support, right? Because you have to charge for high touch support. You can't, well, I guess you could, but you probably wouldn't have a very healthy work life balance if you didn't charge appropriately for that support. But I do think that for them, a lot of it's like, okay, I know this information, but how do I make it actually work for my life? Or, I'm nervous about this, or oh my gosh, is this
Hmm.
normal? Like that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of value to having somewhere to go that's not just Google when you're trying
Hmm.
things. I mean, that could be true for any niche though. Honestly, I feel like even with business, it's like, yeah, you could Google it, but when you're actually trying to make a decision, wouldn't it be nice to have somebody that you could like run the decision by and see, hey, have you experienced this before? Do you have any thoughts about this? Am I seeing this in the right way? Am I missing anything? Because we all have blind spots that
Hmm.
like I don't realize I'm not seeing this. And I think for your clients, it's the same thing. It's like they don't realize, oh, I didn't even know that was something I should consider. I didn't know that, this type of workout's actually, worse for amenorrhea than this type of workout or something like that, right? Like I'm just making stuff up now. But I do think that the perspective piece and knowing what kind of questions to ask, knowing what to look for, being able to learn from other people's questions that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was something I would have a question about. That can be so valuable for the health space. And I feel like a lot of, especially dietitians who I think we're just trained to be like bending over backwards to be everything for people. And so this idea of selling a high ticket group program where you're not doing
Hmm.
one-on-one is like for some people, not everybody, the people I work with are all on board, but for a lot of people listening, they might be like, how could I possibly charge multiple thousands of dollars for a program that I'm not even doing one-on-one for? I don't know if you have any
Yeah.
advice for those people.
I mean, I would just say you can. Like, wouldn't be, I
Mic
wouldn't be
drop.
running a business. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be running a successful business right now if you couldn't. Like, people are signing up for sales calls. People are giving us their credit card over the phone. Like people will, like you can if you're running it well. I'll also say too, and I don't know that this would work as well in every single health related niche, but like you were talking about, like one of the like positive, consistent feedback that we get is, oh my gosh, I love learning from other people's questions. Like
Mm,
I didn't even know that I had the question. So I think that there's like a life and a vibrancy to a group program that you don't get with just one on one. And we've run it both ways. Like our goal, if we take a one on one client with a member on our team, is to eventually move them into group. And I think this is like important in kind of both like the types of clients that we work with. Infertility is really isolating. People feel like they're the only one. They feel like it's their fault. They're ashamed. They feel broken, right? And then you put them in a community with 20 other women that are having the same experience. You're like, thought I was the only one. I've been
mm,
so embarrassed to talk about this. I feel like this is all my fault. And people just feel seen and they feel heard and they feel more supported. And when you build that type of connection in a community, then you're going to see real results and people
yeah.
really get the value. Sometimes it can be hard to sell people on a group program because they're like, how is that going to be individualized? Or like, how am I, how is this personalized and all that stuff? And that's where like you can have like the hybrid one-on-ones, like you can build out whatever you want, but I do really feel like there is value in a group program. I probably won't not sell a group program like ever. I think that it's so
Mhm.
valuable.
Yeah, yeah. So what would you say to somebody so we're recording this in 2025 if you're listening to this in the future. What would you say to somebody who's like nobody wants to buy high ticket stuff in 2025?
I mean, I think 2025 is a great opportunity to sell high ticket. I feel like we have shifted as a society out of being so reliant on conventional medicine. And that's not to say that conventional medicine is bad or it doesn't serve a purpose or can't also be used. I don't like the extremes between the two. I think that they can actually coexist together and work really well together because there's things that, you know, physicians can do that I can't do, and there's things that I can do that I can't do. So I like a team approach. But I would say that like as a society, people are more and more hungry for different types of health information and for practitioners who are going to listen to them and treat them as an individual and look for the true root of why their body isn't functioning properly. And they know they're not going to get that with a conventional medicine doctor. And so I think in 2025, this is a better time than ever to be running a private practice because people are hungry for people who are really going to help them, not just people who are going to dismiss their symptoms and give them a pill.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like there's anything that you've done in your business, like choices you've made or design uh, decisions that you've put into the model that allow you to charge what you charge and deliver the kind of service you deliver as somebody who maybe comes from a background where it's like, oh, one-on-one sessions for 45 minutes and you send them on their way and that kind of more, less impactful way of serving people potentially.
I mean, I think that I've always known myself and my team members, like, at the end of the day, regardless of how much money anyone's making, we really just want to help people. I think you could say this is true for probably 98% of dietitians is you really want to help people. And so I think that you can be confident in the fact that you can charge your prices because you know that even if you don't have the answer for that client day one, you are probably going to work 10 times harder than any other doctor that they're seeing to get them the answer. And that is valuable and people will pay for that.
Mhm.
Then, like I said, I know that like it can feel expensive, but people committing and actually getting results. So we share a lot of client success stories. Those can sometimes solve the program themselves. That could be really helpful. And when people have a great experience, like they would love to share and help other people, especially with an issue that is a little bit more taboo and not talked about as often. And so having good client testimonials and then just being confident in the fact that like that you can help these people. And sometimes I think that that will come a little bit with experience. I guess the other thing too is like, I guess this is okay to share. I like, because I think this is your situation as well, but I'm the breadwinner of our family. And so when I think about like growth in our business, it's not just about like my ego and like, what can I scale this to? It's like quite literally like providing a future for my family. And so if I get to a point in business where like things are tight or we're not making money, it's kind of about like, I have to make sure that I'm charging the appropriate price to afford my team, to afford all of like the operations and systems that help me to run the program and to make me want to show up happily and stress free rather than, feeling so drained. And so I think sometimes too, like that, sometimes practitioners have to learn that the hard way. But like, oh my gosh, I've been undercharging and I'm so burned out. And then you want to burn it all down. So sometimes charging premium prices is also like protecting your energy and preserving like your business for the long run.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like you said, you show up differently when you're not stressed and overworked and, oh my gosh, I all the money I'm making is like going out the door to pay the team that's covering this program that I'm running. So, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to raise your prices. That obviously is a choice if that's the way that you do it. It could also just mean tightening up your sales systems. But I do think the revenue piece, a lot of times, especially dietitians, I don't know what it is about dietitians, but it's just like this anxiety about making too much money or something, right? Like it's like, I didn't get into dietetics to make money. Well, I don't think anybody did, honestly. I don't think that's a career you choose if
Yeah.
you want to make a lot of money, but you're able to make a lot of money if you do things the right way. So, but just knowing that you showing up with your best energy, with your needs met actually gives them a better experience too. It's like everybody wins in that situation versus having this like bleeding heart, like, well, as long as my customers are happy, it doesn't matter if I'm like, struggling financially or not able to, take my kids on vacation because I don't have enough extra to actually do anything with my family. So So I feel like I could probably keep asking you lots of questions because I love chatting with people that are doing what I know is possible. It's one of those things where not everybody's willing to do it. And that's something that I've really seen over the last, gosh, 6 years that I've been doing business coaching for health experts. It's like you can teach the same exact strategy to the same people with the same education, the same resources, the same potential. And one person like you can just like explode and just do amazing and have all this growth. And obviously, I know you still have goals that you want to hit, but like, I think from what I remember, you're at least like double what you were doing in 2023. It is something where it's interesting to see some people that really take off and then some people who just like, they just like crash and burn because they just don't have that willingness to figure it out. It's like they want it to be predictable. They want it to be like, "Oh, I do XYZ and then I get my paycheck," right? And if that's the case, I really feel like they should just get a job because I just
Mhm.
don't think entrepreneurship is a good fit for somebody who expects, the math to math as far as like, I do this work and I make this money, right? And so, do you have any sense for what is different about you, or maybe it's a choice, maybe it's like just, growth that you've experienced in the last few years, but what do you think it is that allows you to show up and want to do what it takes to get your business to not only what it is today, but also what it will be in the future versus people who might have that same support, have that same access to the information, have the same strategy, but they don't end up implementing it? What do you, if you're even aware? Because again, maybe you're like, I don't know,
Yeah.
isn't this just what people do?
I will say, like, if I can go like way back, I feel like I have never been the type of person where things just fall into my lap. I feel like from a very young age, I think about like growing up and going to school. Like I was never like off the chart smart. If I wanted to make A's and B's and get into a good dietetic internship and all, it's kind of like I've always had to work maybe a little bit harder than the average person to like get where I want to be. But I'm not afraid of hard work. So I guess some of it would just be like my upbringing. My parents are like that. My dad is also an entrepreneur. And so usually, when I have my mind set to something, I'll kind of just do it. And that's not to say like I know there was like a project we were working on earlier this year, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get, this many people enrolled in this program. And we had a point where we were like, this doesn't make sense. They're going to pull out. And I'm going to table this. So it doesn't mean that like you can't pivot, but I will say like if I have an end goal of, running a certain program or having certain revenue goals, and again, that's always flexible. It's not always about money, like work-life balance is going to trump that all day, every day. But typically just in life, when I've had a goal, I've never been afraid of doing the hard work to get where I want to be, even if it happens in a roundabout way, and even if it doesn't happen on the exact timeline that I wanted it to.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like that balance of working hard to protect the things that matter to you is kind of that like interesting crossover because I feel like people assume, oh, to have this lifestyle business, it just means you like work an hour a day and you just like send some emails and the money just floods into your bank account. And I know, you've done a lot of really challenging things mentally, just like the sheer force of like creating stuff. So I know that you've worked really hard to get where you're at. And you also, like you just said, you're not going to just sacrifice everything that you care about just to make more money. So it's that balance
Mhm.
of where should I put my hard work so that the things that I really care about, which is my family, my physical health, my mental health, that kind of thing, that's all protected and cared for. And money obviously helps with that, right? Like money is
Mhm.
a tool to build that part of your life. But I think it's really interesting to have that work ethic that also isn't just this like over the top hustle, work till your eyeballs bleed kind of mindset. Cause I think sometimes people either think it should be easier than it is, or they
Mhm.
think that it has to be this like, 80-hour a week, $50 sessions, just like work nonstop to
Yeah,
make
and
the
it
money.
totally doesn't have to be that. I will say, like, growing up with a dad who is very much like that, like, he would always be like, a 40-hour work week is for suckers. Like, if you want to get ahead in life, you need to be working like 60 to 75 hours a week. And I
Ooh,
just remember, once I started making money in my business, I was like, that could not be further from the truth. Like,
yeah.
people that are running like big, like 7, 8 figure businesses, like, it's people doing a lot of things for them, and they might really only be working like 10 hours a week. And, like, that's amazing. I definitely work more than that. And we don't make that much money, but all that to say, like, there's always like a balance of things. And there are weeks that I feel like I'm not working that much and I'm still making money. And that's awesome. But then there's also like seasons and weeks where I'm like, okay, this is a grind. Like we're working a lot. But it
Mhm.
is great, owning your own business because you get to decide when that is. And that could be when my kids are at school. And it could not be so much in the summer or like we're on a vacation and I'm not working at all. So
Yeah.
that's been such a cool thing about owning and operating my own business.
Yeah, that's awesome. So to wrap things up, like I said, I feel like I could go another hour. So we'll have to just have you back maybe in a year to get the update as to what's been going on. But what has building your business like this done for you personally, as far as like results, outcomes? Like, because I know when you first came to me, you were doing well. I mean, most people would be like very excited to have the financial results that you were getting, but I know you are ambitious and you know you're capable of more. So what has that done for you in the current phase of your business?
When we first started together, I think one of the reasons why I reached out to you to get more support was because I was just tired of inconsistencies in my business. Like I'd have these like awesome, 20K months. And then it would, there just wasn't the consistency there. And that was really stressful for me for somebody who likes predictability and somebody who's like trying to provide for a family of five. So consistency has been like a really big shift. And it's funny, Laura, because another girls trip I was on earlier this year, or there was like two of us that had never taken what is like the big personality test,
Myers Briggs.
but like the more fun one, the Enneagram.
Oh, yeah.
So two of us have never taken it. So we were like, okay, like we're going to sit down and take this test. And it was so funny taking that test and, it's kind of like you choose, like, this kind of sounds like me. This doesn't. It was so funny, like choosing the answers on that test because I was like, oh my gosh, like if I took this test 3 years ago, my answers would be radically different. So I feel like being an entrepreneur, going through your programming, working with you has really challenged me to not think so black and white and to be a little bit more of a risk taker. Like you were saying, we don't like, there's been a lot of growth on like me being like, I need to, this is safe. I need to stay where I am versus being curious, recognizing there's multiple different ways to do things and just kind of like, I don't know, just like thinking about things differently, being a little bit more creative, being a little bit more spontaneous and being more of a risk taker. And I think that probably plays into like growth in business as well.
Yeah. And are you willing to share like financial results that you've been able to accomplish? Since I know you were telling me before we hit record that kind
Yeah.
of stuff inspires you.
Yeah, for sure. So when we started together, like I remember, right, I was hitting every once in a while, I'd have like a big month, but the summer of 2023, where I was like, oh, do I need to get a hospital job? I was making less than 10K a month for sure. So 2023 looked like, kind of like 10 to 15K months was kind of more average. And now I'm at a place where we're kind of scaling towards 40K months. So I've kind of hit like under that 40K mark kind of twice, almost in a row. So I know it's possible. And like I think that's kind of what we said was like getting on track, maybe not totally hitting this goal, but aiming for 400K for the year. And I know that if I don't hit it this year, that I'm doing what I need to do to get it next year. So that's
Mhm.
exciting.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And I think you're gonna hit it. So
I know it's possible. I've seen that it's possible. So it's just
yeah.
getting the things together to get there.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Well, Lindsay, I really love talking to you about this. It's just really cool to see the path that you've been on and everything that you've built, even in a pretty short period of time. 5 years, 6 years sounds like a lot, but it's actually not that much in business building timeline. So super exciting to see what you've accomplished. And I'm excited to see where it goes because I know you have so much more that you are going to accomplish. If people want to connect with you and share if this was inspiring to them, where is the best place to find you?
yeah, they can connect with me on Instagram, food.freedom.fertility. If I'm slow to respond, you might have gotten stuck in my message request jail, but I check those once or twice a week. So
Awesome.
I'll catch you at some point.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your candidness and sharing so honestly about the journey you've been on. And I know it's going to inspire a lot of people. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Nourished CEO podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation and it brought you value, I would be so grateful if you would take a minute to leave a review over on iTunes. Your feedback not only helps more amazing coaches and practitioners like you find the show, it also helps me keep creating the kind of content that you want more of. Just head over to Apple Podcasts, search for the Nourished CEO podcast, Scroll down and tap that write a review button. It only takes a minute and it means the world to me. Thanks again for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode.